Here we are in September, I think we are, of 2023, and I want to answer the question, do I think Thrive Themes is still any good? Much has changed since the last time I talked about it, and that really does have a strong bearing on my thoughts on Thrive Themes these days. All right, so let's talk about my opinion on Thrive Themes as it stands now. Okay, let's take the glasses off since there's a lot of glare there. Got to get used to that one. Getting older is a thing. So let's talk about Thrive Themes and my updated thoughts on that piece of software, on the Thrive Suite. Okay, it's been a little while since I've talked about it, and I have a little bit of real talk for you today on my opinion on things and where it stands. The last time I talked about Thrive Suite was back in 2021. It was right here on a video on this YouTube channel. I will actually link to that video right above so you can click over to it if you would like to watch that. Now, it's not completely outdated because I do want to make an important point here, and that is that my thoughts on the actual software remain about the same. I actually do think that Thrive Suite, the software itself, is pretty good, and it has gotten better since I last talked about it. I want to be clear. I don't want to sit here and badmouth the software. The reasons that I like the software and the Thrive Suite before still stand. I think it is pretty good, okay? So I want to just say that right off the gate before I start saying why I don't recommend it anymore. But we need to get into that, okay? So let's first talk about that. First of all, at the end of that last video, I stated my policy when it comes to promoting software. And you guys probably, you know how this business works. You do know that I was an affiliate of Thrive Themes. And so there was a financial incentive to talk about it. But that being said, I have a personal policy that I'm only going to recommend the things that I actually use. And I myself used Thrive Themes for a long time, okay? And so that's just a personal policy. It's the only way that I can be honest about my recommendations. The thing is, I no longer use Thrive Themes. And I have my reasons for that, by the way, which I'm about to go into. But being that I no longer actually use Thrive Themes, how can I come out and say, yeah, you should keep using it? You're kind of dumb if you don't use it. I can't say that anymore. I can't sit here and enthusiastically recommend Thrive Themes to somebody who's just starting out, or really to anybody, because I now have my own personal reservations about it. But again, it's not because of the fact the software sucks. It's other things, okay? Two of which I want to mention to you. The first one, I mentioned that I'm no longer using Thrive Themes myself. That's because, well, at one time I switched over to the Buddy Boss theme because I wanted to do the community and all that. And I will be upfront, even though I'm no longer using Buddy Boss either, when I switched off, that already kind of started the ball rolling. I was like, okay, I'm not really using Thrive Themes anymore. That might be a thing. Well, then I switched off to Buddy Boss, and I'm now using Cadence. Okay, I'm using the Cadence theme. Now, if you know much about WordPress, you know that the native system for WordPress is now based on blocks. We use the block builder now. It's called Gutenberg. That's how we build sites now by default if you're going to do things the native way with WordPress. Okay? Now, when I switched over to Cadence, all of my performance metrics went up substantially. It was quite noticeable. I had some pesky just performance issues that I could not solve either with Thrive Themes or with Buddy Boss. And in some ways, Buddy Boss was actually a little bit worse, but that's a whole different story. But I had some performance issues that I just could not fix, especially for mobile devices, and that was always problematic. The other thing is that when it comes to core web vitals, which we know in the world of SEO is kind of a thing that Google's looking at for SEO purposes, I could not get all those scores into the green. I could not do it with Thrive Themes. As hard as I tried to get all of my core web vitals into the green with Thrive Themes, I could not do it. There were things like cumulative layout shift or the CLS score and stuff that I just could not get right. And I tried, okay? And I had some other issues with Buddy Boss. The thing is, when I switched over to Cadence, which is, again, using the native block builder of WordPress, it all went away. So where I stand today is that I use the Cadence theme with the Cadence block builder. If I need an additional plugin like Spectra or something like that that adds new blocks to the block builder, then I might use that. But being that it is a native system, because that's how WordPress is now designed to operate, the performance is much better. And so it's in my best interest to have my performance scores be up. I find certain things about using Cadence actually easier and more intuitive than Thrive. That being said, and also if I think the performance is better, that's obviously what I'm going to recommend to my clients as well. And I do. If a client asks me to build a site from scratch today, I will typically recommend that we use the Cadence theme. Okay, unless they've got a very specific use case for why another theme might be a better fit, I'm typically going to say, okay, I think we should use Cadence because I can build a really nice site for them. It's going to look fantastic. It's also going to perform really well. That's important for a multitude of reasons. So that's kind of where we stand today, is that I'm no longer personally using Thrive themes, so that's a factor. Secondly, it's not the best performer out there. It just isn't. When it comes down to it, you're going to have to take much more additional steps to get a Thrive theme site or anything built with a page builder or similar to that to make the performance scores good. And despite all the things that I did to make the performance scores good, and I got my performance scores decent, but I could not really get them to where I want them, and especially on mobile. I had the hardest time getting the mobile score much beyond in the 50s. It was actually quite pathetic, and that's where it stood. So that brings me to where things stand now with regard to Thrive Suite, because there is an additional factor here, and that is that the company is not really Thrive Themes anymore. It got acquired, and I'm not a massive fan of the people that acquired them. Let me go into a little bit more detail about that. So in January of this year, in 2023, the company known as Awesome Motive actually acquired Thrive Themes. Now, Awesome Motive is a company, I mean, they're actually a very respectful company. They've done a lot. They're one of the biggest companies in the WordPress space. They're the guys behind Optin Monster, WP Forms, Monster Insights. They've got all-in-one SEO now. They've actually got a lot of brands. I've actually kind of, frankly, lost count of the various brands that they own in the WordPress space. And I want to also be clear. I don't want to badmouth them completely. Like the founder is Syed. Me and Syed have hung out on multiple occasions back in the blog world days and stuff like this. So I knew him back then. I haven't talked to him that much lately at all. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for Syed and his entrepreneurial chops. I mean, I like the guy a lot. That being said, I'm not a massive fan of the tactics that Awesome Motive uses, and I'm not going to knowingly promote software to my clients or to my subscribers that is done by Awesome Motive. And it's one of the biggest reasons for that is because I think that the company is a little on the gray area zone with regard to some of their marketing and some of the things that they do. And I also think that, frankly, they come off as a little bit pushy. And I don't think it's necessarily in the best interest of the people who use it. And I know that it's just my opinion. And I know a lot of people use various Awesome Motive software. It's fine. Some of their software is actually fantastic. It's just that I'm not a big fan of the way they market their stuff, and I think it's a little pushy. So when they bought Thrive Themes, I was like, oh, crap, really? And it's because what are they going to do to Thrive Themes? Are they going to mess it up? Are they going to start getting all pushy with it? Are they going to start cross-promoting other Awesome Motive products inside of Thrive Themes and start turning the Thrive Themes plugins into some big sales job for other plugins? And frankly, I don't know if they've gotten too pushy about it because I have not been using it that much lately. But let me just show you a case in point here. If I go over, so here's their pricing suite. This is an interesting page. I went over to thrivethemes.com and I went down to the bottom, okay? And I noticed it's mostly the same. I'll show you this in a little bit. But over here, I saw this thing called Thrive Themes Coupon. And of course, they're going to link to WP Beginner because that's what they always do. A quick little aside here about WP Beginner. All that thing is, it's useful. They've got some great material on there. But if you notice that every time that they do a list post recommending different options to do things, it always lists their own stuff, like really blatantly so. And they own so many darn plugins that they could list out 5 of them, and they probably own 4. I mean, it's really a thing. And so it's one of those things to where WP Beginner is basically a big brochure disguised as a tutorial. That's what it is. They've got some great value over there, but it's a massive sales job for their plugins. It is what it is. But this Thrive Themes coupon thing was not there before. And if you go up, you'll notice that it's $2.99 a year. That's actually what it costed before. But notice how they're saying it's normally $5.99 a year. I'm here to tell you it was never $5.99 a year. It's never cost that much. And they're bullcrapping all of us by saying that. And in fact, if I go right back, they bought this in January, right? They bought it in January. So if I go back to the Wayback Machine, to this is it. This is January. Okay, look, let's see what we got. This is the home page here. This right here is that page. Oh, this is in December. So this is the Wayback Machine in that was captured pretty much right before Awesome Motive bought it. Look what it is. It's $2.99 a year. This is not a coupon page. This is their standard pricing page. Okay. And then as soon as they bought it, let's move over to January. And this is going to say, oh, it's normally $5.99 a year, and you're getting it for $2.99 a year, and they're positioning it as a coupon. Again, is it that big of a deal? No, I guess, but it's a little bit shady. I mean, it just is. They're basically bullcrapping you by giving you this price, which is nothing but it's a fake price. It never, ever costs $5.99 a year. I would have never promoted this thing if it cost $5.99 a year because it wouldn't have been worth it, okay? This is the normal price, and you're not saving anything. It's bullcrap. Just as another example, I just went over to OptinMonster, checked their pricing page. They're doing the same bullcrap. Okay, they're doing the same thing. And in case you don't know, OptinMonster is owned by the same company. It's also Awesome Motive, okay? But look at this thing up here. Oh, well, get this out of the way. No. Okay. All right, this right here, this countdown timer. It makes it look like I've got less than 4 hours to save 35%. Whatever, it's a bunch of bullcrap. If I come back to this page tomorrow, that timer is just resets again. This thing, it just goes in an endless loop, okay? So once again, it's like, it just seems deceptive to me. So those are some of the reasons I'm not a massive fan of at least the way that Awesome Motive markets their stuff. I think it's not in the best interest of of their customers. And there's other things that I've seen that I'm not a big fan of with the way that Awesome Motive does this. At the end of the day, they have good software. Some of it they've built, others they've basically acquired, such as Thrive Themes. And the other thing, too, I've noticed is that a lot of times when they acquire software, it's very clear that they're just trying to take a competitor off the map. Okay, now, again, if you're looking at it strictly from business, it makes sense, he's being a capitalist. I got it, okay? Thing is, it's not always in the best interest of the WordPress community, in my opinion. I don't like the kind of pushy marketing. I think that's kind of deceptive. I just showed you a couple of examples of that. I also don't like that many plugins being in the hands of one particular company. I think the WordPress community benefits from things being much more open and having a lot more options out there. And when one company controls that many different plugins and makes them act like they're different when they're not, and they're going to cross-promote each other and all that, it's just not a game that I want to send, or at least knowingly send my people into if they're taking my recommendation. If I'm going to put my recommendation out there, I need to feel pretty good about it. I don't feel pretty good about recommending things done by Awesome Motive. That's just where I stand on that one. And so for that reason, combined with the performance stuff and other things that I talked about before, I no longer use Thrive Suite. I'm not going to sit here and say that you should use Thrive Suite. I'm not going to sit here either and tell you that Thrive Suite sucks, because it doesn't. It's good software. If it wasn't, I would not have promoted it in the first place. But that's where I stand on Thrive Suite today. If you are still using Thrive Suite, you're not in any rush to get off of it. But I have had some clients get rid of their Thrive Themes subscription. I don't know how well Thrive Themes is doing, honestly, now that Awesome Motive has bought it. I can tell you just a little bit of inside baseball. My affiliate commissions have certainly dried the heck up. Now, I'm not promoting it much anymore, so that's a big thing. But also, they really changed the affiliate program now. It just doesn't make, even from a business perspective, it would make no sense for me to talk about this very much anymore. I'm just being real with you about that one. But that being said, again, I have a personal policy about I'm only going to recommend what I use, and I have to feel good about it. And I don't feel good about knowingly sending people who take my opinion seriously into Awesome Motive software. And I don't promote any Awesome Motive software. I just don't want to. Even though some of their options are pretty good, there's enough other really good options that are not owned by Awesome Motive that I think are either just as good or in some cases even better than what Awesome Motive is peddling. So that's where I stand on that. That's why that's my updated opinion on Thrive Themes. I actually don't think it's going to change because of the current ownership. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. That's my mixed bag opinion of Thrive Suite these days. Talk to you later on.